Welcome to the Notion of You. I'm Tashi Jones, storyteller, guide, and your gentle reminder to slow down and come home to yourself. Each week, we explore what it means to live with more trust, more presence, and more peace, one breath at a time. You are safe here. I want you to treat this like two friends grabbing coffee or going for a walk together. No agenda, no performance, just presence. So if you're driving or folding laundry or doing something that lets you be a little still, good. This time is yours. Let's begin. Take a breath, a real one, where you let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Let your jaw soften and let your belly expand just a little more than it normally does. There you go. This episode is for the version of you that disappears to keep the peace. The one who says yes when her whole body is whispering no. The one who smooths things over, keeps the mood light, makes sure everyone else is okay, and then wonders quietly, alone later, why she feels so far from herself. If that's you, even a little bit, you're in the right place. Self-trust doesn't leave us all at once. It slips away in small moments, in agreements we make to avoid discomfort, in the words that we swallow to keep someone else comfortable. But it can come back, and that's what we're going to talk about today. There was someone in my life, someone I cared about, who had a habit of commenting on online creators, people who choose to share their lives. They set up the camera just to live out loud. And this person thought it's ridiculous. They'll mention seeing a video, maybe someone washing dishes or going about their day, and they just shake their head. They can't help but make a comment. They say they don't understand why anyone would ever do that, why anyone would even watch it, and how people can ever take content like that seriously. And I sit there and I go quiet. Because even though they're not talking about me, even though I'm not the creator they're talking about, something in me receives it like they are. I make their words mean something about me, about this podcast, about the content that I create, the stories I share, the work I've slowly built into something in hopes that some other woman will find their way back to themselves. This person doesn't even know that any of this exists, but I still let their opinion reach inside and touch something tender in me. I can feel it in my body before I even finish the thought. The shortness of breath, the extra weight sitting on my shoulders, the quiet withholding, like I'm holding the fullest version of myself, just slightly out of reach, keeping her tucked away where she can't be judged. And for a really long time, I let those moments pass. I let them finish. I let the conversation drift somewhere safer, just to keep the peace and to keep myself hidden. But something shifted in the last conversation I had with them. When it came up again, I found just enough voice to offer something gentle back. What if the person creating it enjoys creating it? Maybe there are other people out there who enjoy watching it. You don't have to be one of them. I didn't put myself out there. I wasn't ready for that. But I said something true. And after, it felt like breathing deeper, more grounded, and a little bit freer. I've been sitting with something that I read recently. The idea that when people say things that sting, it's far more likely about them than about us. It's their lens, it's their experience, their unexamined thoughts. And some of us who are so good, practiced at internalizing other people's words, that we make their story our identity, even when it was never about us at all. That's not weakness. That's what happens when self trust has slowly, quietly traded away, one quiet moment at a time. So let's talk about what actually happens in that moment and in all the moments like it. Because what I was doing, the staying quiet, shrinking, letting someone else's opinion land in my body like it belonged there, it wasn't just shyness. It wasn't just about being private. It was people pleasing. And people pleasing has a very specific cost that we don't always name out loud. It costs you yourself. Not all at once. That's the thing. It happens slowly. Moments so small, they probably barely even register. A silence here, a swallowed truth there. A yes when your whole body wants to say no right now. And in each of those moments, on its own, it feels reasonable, mature, the peaceful choice. But over time, over hundreds of those small moments, you start to feel it. A distance from yourself, a quiet hollowness, a sense that you've been present in your own life, but not quite in it. And that's what people pleasing really is. It's not actually kindness. It's not generosity. It's a trade. You hand over a piece of your truth in exchange for temporary comfort, for keeping the mood light, for avoiding the tension, for not having to navigate someone else's reaction. And for a moment, it works. The air stays easy, nobody's upset, and everything's fine. Except you. You are not fine. You're just quieter about it. This is the distinction I want you to sit with, because I think it matters more than almost anything else we talk about today. There is a difference between connection and people pleasing, and they can look almost identical from the outside. Picture this. Connection is when you stay present with someone. You're there in the conversation. You're listening. You choose your words with care. When you decide that this moment or this relationship is worth being gentle with. Connection can absolutely include biting your tongue sometimes. It includes grace. It can include genuinely letting something go because it doesn't matter that much to you. On the other hand, people pleasing is when you do all of that at your own expense. when you silence something that actually does matter, when you perform ease instead of feeling it, when the driving force isn't love or choice, it's fear. Fear of conflict, fear of judgment, fear of being seen and found lacking. Connection comes from wholeness, whereas people pleasing comes from depletion. And the difference will live in your body, which is exactly why we need to start there. So let's go through something practical, something you can use this week, not just think about. We're going to call it check in with me first. It's a pause. It's exactly what it sounds like. Before you respond, before you answer, agree, deflect, or go quiet, pause. Just for a breath and check in with yourself first. Feel your feet on the floor. Take your slow breath and ask yourself honestly, what do I actually want here? And what do I actually need? It's no longer a question of what will keep the peace or what is the other person hoping to hear. It's not the answer of what's easiest to say, but it's what is true for me right now, in this moment. It sounds simple to sit here and explain it, say it, but in the moment, it's not always easy. It's not generally easy, especially when the other person is waiting and that silence feels loaded, especially when you spent years, probably decades, skipping that check in entirely and going straight to whatever keeps everyone else comfortable. But the learning moment here is that the pause is where your self trust lives. So every time you skip it, you're sending yourself a message. You're telling yourself that your inner voice isn't worth consulting, that your own needs can wait, that other people's comfort matters more than your own clarity. And your nervous system needs to hear that. Your body needs to hear that. Over time, you stop trusting yourself to know what you want because you've trained yourself not to ask. Implementing this pause will slowly reverse that, quietly, one moment at a time. You don't have to have the perfect answer when you check in. You don't have to be ready to say it out loud. For me, this check in helps know where I stand before I decide how to respond. That inner knowing, even when it's not what I share, is an act of self trust. And that's what I was doing in that conversation. I wasn't ready to share my work, and I probably won't be for a while. But I checked in with myself enough to find something small and true that I could offer. And that made the difference between leaving the conversation feeling hollow versus grounded. So, what happens when you don't pause and you slip back into old patterns? Because you will. I do. When you say yes when you mean no, or you go completely silent when a part of you wants to speak. This is where repair comes in. And in my mind, there are two different kinds, but we really generally only think about one. The first kind of repair is relational repair, where you go back to the person and say, actually, I want to revisit that. Or I said yes, but I need to change my answer. Or even I've been thinking about what you said, and here's what I actually want to say about it. This kind of repair is powerful. It requires a lot of courage, and it's not always possible or safe, depending on the relationship. But when it's available to you, it's worth using. The second kind, and honestly the one I think we need more practice with, is integrity repair. And this is the repair you do within yourself, with yourself, for yourself. It doesn't require the other person to be involved at all. It sounds like I noticed that I abandoned myself in that moment, and I now know why. And I'm not going to sit here and shame myself for it. And next time, I want to try something different. That's it. That's the whole thing. We name what happens. We offer ourselves understanding and give ourselves the chance to get curious about what we might do differently. Not from a place of criticism, but from a place of a genuine care for our own wholeness. This is what I use my relationship reflection page in Notion for. It's a simple practice, but it becomes one of the most honest things I can do for myself. I sit down after a moment that felt off, or a conversation I didn't show up the way I wanted to, and I move through 4 simple questions. What's the situation? What did I do? What did I truly want or need in that moment? And what might I try next time? This isn't to punish myself or analyze it to death, but it's to witness it, to close that loop, to say, I see you, I see what happened, and I'm not leaving you there. Because here's the thing about self trust, it's not built through perfection, it's built through attention, through the willingness to keep showing up for yourself, even after you've let yourself down, especially then. I want to offer you something for the moments right before a really hard conversation, the ones that we really would rather avoid. Before you walk into the room where you know that energy is going to be tense, or you pick up the phone call that's been sitting heavy on your chest, grab a grounding oil, a scent that can anchor you. Press it into your heart, your wrists, breathe it in. Say to yourself quietly, my needs matter too. This isn't an affirmation that I'm trying to force myself to believe. It's a reminder, a gentle returning, because sometimes our nervous systems need something sensory to land in before we can access that verbal peace. The breath, the scent, the touch of your own hands. My needs matter too. Whether you say it out loud, whisper it, or just think it while you take a few deep breaths. But let it land somewhere in your body before you enter that tense moment. Let it be the ground you stand on before you try to stay connected to someone else. Because that's the whole teaching, really. You can't stay connected to others, truly connected and not just compliant, if you're not connected to yourself first. That check-in with me first pause, the integrity repair, a quiet moment for your breath before a hard conversation, all of it is practice in returning to yourself again and again. It's not selfishness, but it's the foundation that everything else is built on. So let's take everything we've been sitting with and bring it to real life. Not as homework or another thing to add to your to-do list, but a small practice that you can try this week in those real conversations. Borrow the phrase, "Let me think about that and get back to you." That's it. That's the practice. It sounds so simple, but it's easy to underestimate it. I want you to feel what that sentence does. It buys you the pause. It creates the space between someone else's request and your response. The space where "check in with me first" lives. It's complete, kind. It's an adult sentence that requires no explanation and no apology. And for those of us who've been conditioned to answer immediately, to have that answer ready, to not inconvenience anyone with our own need to think, it's probably going to feel radical the first time you say it out loud. Try it once this week. It doesn't have to be in a high stakes conversation. It can be about something small, a plan someone wants to make, a favor they're asking you for, a question that usually gets an automatic yes. Pause and use the phrase, "Let me think about that and get back to you." And then check in with yourself before you really do get back to them. Notice what comes up in your body when you say it. Is there guilt or relief or both at the same time? Notice what you find when you actually give yourself the space to ask, "What do I want here?" If you want to take this one step further, if you want to build a record of your own growth, open your Notion app, find your relationship reflection page, and write down the moment. What happened, what you did, what you actually wanted, what you might try next time. It's not to analyze it, but to witness it. To say, "This moment mattered, and so did I." That's self-trust being built in real time. One moment, one honest breath, one return to self at a time. You made it to the end of this one. And I don't say that lightly because this wasn't a light episode. We talked about real things today. So let's just breathe in that moment before we go. Here is what I want you to carry with you. It's not a list, not a set of rules, just this. You can stay connected to the people in your life without disappearing from yourself too. Those two things are not in conflict, even when it feels like they are. Even when the only option seems to feel like keeping the peace or causing a scene. There's a third one, and it lives in that pause, in the breath, in the quiet moment where you check in with yourself before you respond to anyone else. People pleasing isn't who you are. It's a pattern you learned, probably at some point to keep you safe, and it worked. You can honor that without letting it run your life anymore. Self-trust doesn't ask you to be fearless, but it asks you to show up for yourself again and again, to notice where you've slipped, to gently repair it without shame, to try again. If today's step episode stirred something in you, if you feel that recognition, that quiet, "This is me," I want you to know that Burnout to Alignment was built for this exact moment. It's not a course, it's not a program with a finish line, but a support system, a place to process, reflect, and gently rebuild your relationship with yourself at your own pace, in your own time. You can find the link to it in the show notes. And this week, just one thing. open your Notion app or your journal and reflect on one relationship moment. Notice what you learned about yourself. That's enough. That's everything. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing yourself enough to press play today. I'll see you next week. You are safe here.